poor Nanny comforted a terrified little girl at the park, unaware her father was a millionaire CEO. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. It was a chilly Sunday afternoon in Central Park. The golden leaves rustled across the path, and the wind carried the faint laughter of distant families. On a wooden bench near the playground, Maya sat with a paper cup of coffee gone cold in her hands. Her shoes were thin, her coat a size too big, but her smile was soft as she watched the world move around her. She had just lost another nanny job 2 days ago, yet she refused to let worry steal the quiet peace of this autumn day. Then she heard it crying. Not the fussy whimper of a spoiled child, but the deep, broken sobs of someone truly scared. Her head turned. Near the fountain stood a little girl, no older than 6. Her pink jacket streaked with dirt, her face blotchy with tears. People passed by, some glanced, but no one stopped. Maya rose instantly. "Hey, sweetheart," she said, crouching down to meet the girl's eyes. "What happened? Are you lost?" The child hiccuped between sobs. I cannot find my daddy. He was right there, and now he is gone." Maya's heart squeezed. "It is all right. You are safe, okay? We will find him together." She slipped off her scarf, a faded lavender one, embroidered with her name, and gently wrapped it around the little girl's shoulders. "What is your name, honey?" "Lily," the girl whispered. "Lily?" Maya repeated softly. "I love that name. Let us sit for a second and think. Do you remember what your daddy was wearing?" Lily sniffled, nodding. "A black coat. He was on the phone. Then he turned, and he was gone." The wind cut colder through the trees. Maya took Lily's small hand, rubbing warmth into it with her palms. "Okay, Lily, we are going to stay right here where he can see us. He is probably looking for you right now." Minutes passed. Maya told Lily stories about friendly pigeons and brave squirrels who never gave up. Slowly, the girl's sobs turned into shaky giggles. A police officer walking by noticed them, but before he could speak, a deep voice called out behind them. "Lily." The little girl spun around and ran toward the man who appeared at the edge of the path. He was tall, in a tailored black coat, his jaw tight, his eyes frantic until they landed on his daughter. He dropped to one knee, arms open wide as Lily threw herself into his embrace. Maya stepped back, relief flooding her chest. The man held the girl close, whispering something only she could hear. When he finally looked up, his eyes met Maya's. There was gratitude in them, but also distance, like someone who had forgotten how to speak gently. "Thank you," he said, his voice low, controlled. "It is nothing," Maya replied, smiling shyly. She was just scared. Anyone would have done the same. He looked at the scarf around Lily's shoulders, the lavender fabric bright against the gray sky. "Is that yours?" "Yes," Maya said. "Let her keep it until you get home. It might help her feel safe." The man hesitated, then nodded once. "I will make sure it finds its way back to you." He lifted Lily into his arms and walked away, his stride confident, his silhouette fading among the trees. Maya watched them go, her fingers still warm from holding the child's hand. She did not know the man's name, and she did not expect to see them again. But fate, as always, had other plans. That night, the city lights shimmered like restless stars beyond the small window of Maya's apartment. The glass trembled each time a bus rumbled by. Inside, the room was quiet, barely larger than a storage closet, with one twin bed pushed against the wall, a cracked mirror, and a second-hand lamp that flickered whenever she turned it on. Her dinner sat untouched on the table, half of a peanut butter sandwich and a cup of instant noodles gone cold. Maya leaned against the window, watching the blurred reflections of taxis moving below. She thought of the little girl, Lily, and the way her small hand had clung to hers. The sound of her sobs still lingered in Maya's ears. It had been hours since they parted, but the moment refused to fade. She whispered to herself, "At least she is safe now." Though, the room smelled faintly of detergent and rain. On the dresser lay a folded paper notice from her landlord 2 weeks overdue on rent. She had been working as a part-time nanny for nearly 3 years, bouncing from one family to another. Every job ended the same way: parents moving out of state, children starting school, or families cutting expenses. Tomorrow she would wake up and start the search again. Maybe the local agency would have new listings. Maybe someone somewhere needed help with their children. She rubbed her eyes and smiled weakly. "One day," she said softly, "I will have a place with real walls and a window that does not leak." From a small drawer, she pulled out a stack of handwritten letters. They were from her mother, living 2 states away in a quiet town near the coast. Her mother's handwriting was shaky but full of warmth. Maya reread the last line from the most recent one. "Keep believing that good hearts always find their way, my dear." Her throat tightened. She had been sending part of her pay home every month to help with her mother's medicine. Losing her last job meant the next payment might never come. Outside, thunder rolled softly. The sound blended with the hum of the refrigerator and the dripping faucet in the sink. It was not much of a home, but it was hers, for now. Maya sat at her small table and opened her worn leather notebook. She flipped through pages of sketches, children she had cared for, scenes from parks and playgrounds, moments she captured to remind herself of joy. Drawing was her quiet escape, the one dream she never let go. On one page, she drew the image still vivid in her mind. A little girl wrapped in a lavender scarf, smiling through tears. She shaded the curls of Lily's hair and wrote beneath it, "Bravery in small hands." "Oh?" Her phone buzzed. It was a message from the nanny agency reminding her of an open interview scheduled for the next morning. Location: an address in the Upper East Side. The note said, "Private client. Full-time position. High confidentiality required." She stared at the screen, heart pounding. A new opportunity. Maybe this was it, the one stable job she had been praying for. But a small voice inside whispered caution. Families that requested secrecy usually meant long hours and strict rules. Still, she needed the income. The rent would not wait. Maya set her alarm for 6 o'clock, folded her blanket, and turned off the lamp. Darkness filled the room, gentle but heavy. As she lay on her back, she replayed the moment when Lily's father looked at her in the park. His eyes had held something complicated, a mix of exhaustion and gratitude, maybe even guilt. Who was he, she wondered? And why did his voice sound like someone who has forgotten how to rest? Sleep came slowly. The wind outside pressed against the window like a sigh. Somewhere deep in her chest, between fear and hope, a quiet conviction began to grow. Whatever tomorrow brought, she would face it the same way. She faced everything else with kindness, first, courage, second, and faith that even the smallest good deed could find its way back someday. And as the night settled over New York City, Maya dreamed of a park filled with sunlight, a child's laughter, and a lavender scarf fluttering in the wind. Morning sunlight filtered through the thin curtains, casting stripes of gold across Maya's small room. The alarm rang at 6, just as she had set it. She stretched, tied her hair into a neat bun, and took a deep breath. Today mattered. She could not afford to lose another opportunity. The interview address was printed neatly on her phone. East 70, 3rd Street, Upper East Side. She packed her small portfolio with letters of reference, tucked her sketchbook under her arm, and stepped out into the crisp morning air. The subway was half full, filled with office workers scrolling on their phones, the hum of the city already alive. Maya held onto the pole, rehearsing what she might say if asked about her experience. By the time she climbed the marble steps of the brownstone building, her nerves had returned. The doorman greeted her politely, checked the list, and guided her to an elevator that whispered upward to the 10th floor. The hallway smelled faintly of jasmine and polished wood. She rang the bell once. The door opened. Standing there was the man from the park. For a moment, both froze. The same sharp eyes, the same black coat, only now replaced by a crisp gray suit. He looked different in daylight, less frantic, more composed, but no less distant. Recognition flickered in his gaze. "You are—" "Yes," Maya said quickly, her voice almost trembling. "We met at Central Park. I helped your daughter." The man nodded slowly. "So you are the applicant from the agency." Maya swallowed hard. "Yes, sir, Maya Thompson. I did not realize this was your home." He stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. The apartment was breathtaking floor to ceiling, windows framing the skyline, shelves lined with books and awards, every detail meticulous. Yet the air felt cold, like a museum that had forgotten laughter. A little voice broke the stillness. "Maya!" Lily came running from the hallway, the lavender scarf still draped around her neck. She launched herself into Maya's arms, giggling. The sound filled the quiet space like sunlight breaking through clouds. Ethan Blake watched them, something soft flickering across his face. "Lily has not smiled like that in a long time," he said quietly. "Perhaps this was meant to be." Maya looked down at Lily, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "Maybe it was," she said gently. They sat together for the interview. Ethan asked about her background, her work with other families, her comfort with full-time hours. His tone was professional, but his eyes occasionally drifted toward his daughter, who refused to leave Maya's side. When the conversation ended, he said, "The position requires discretion. You will live here during weekdays. Weekends are yours. Salary and conditions will be handled through the agency. Can you start tomorrow?" Maya hesitated only a moment before answering. "Yes, I can." As she left, Ethan stopped her at the door. "About the scarf," he said. "Lily insists it is hers now. I hope you do not mind." Maya smiled. "She can keep it. It looks better on her anyway." Outside, the air smelled of rain, though the sky was clear. She could hardly believe what had happened. The same man she had helped days ago, now her employer. Fate had an odd sense of humor. That evening, back in her tiny apartment, she began to pack her things. It did not take long. She owned very little. As she folded her uniform and tucked her sketchbook into her bag, she caught her reflection in the mirror. Her expression was different, hopeful but cautious. She whispered, "This is a new start, Maya. Do not mess it up." She thought of Lily's laughter echoing in that vast, lonely apartment. There was something about that child, a gentleness that drew her in, as if the little girl carried a piece of her own forgotten childhood. And Ethan Blake, though guarded, had eyes that spoke of exhaustion and quiet sorrow, the kind that no wealth could erase. Maya turned off the light and stood by the window. The city glowed below, restless and endless. She did not know what awaited her in that high-rise home, only that something about today felt like the beginning of a story she had not meant to enter, but could no longer leave. She closed her eyes and murmured, "Kindness brought me there. Let it guide me through." Outside, a soft breeze carried the faint sound of laughter from the street below, and for the first time in weeks, Maya felt that maybe, just maybe, life was starting to change. The following morning dawned bright and calm, the kind of spring day that made New York City look softer than usual. Maya arrived at the Blake residence 10 minutes early, her uniform pressed and her hair neatly tied back. The doorman greeted her by name now, a small acknowledgement that made her smile. She took the elevator up, her pulse steady but her heart eager. When the doors opened, Lily was already waiting by the entrance, clutching a small teddy bear. "You came back," the little girl cheered, her eyes lighting up. Maya knelt and opened her arms. "Of course I did. I promised, remember?" From behind, Ethan Blake appeared, dressed in a charcoal suit, a phone in one hand, a coffee mug in the other. "Good morning, Miss Thompson," he said, voice firm but polite. "I will be at the office until evening. The housekeeper, Mrs. Collins, will assist you if you need anything." "Yes, sir," Maya replied. As soon as the front door closed behind him, the apartment seemed to exhale. Lily tugged at Maya's hand. "Can we go to the garden? Daddy never lets me go alone." Maya smiled. "Let us ask Mrs. Collins first." The elderly housekeeper gave a nod of approval, and moments later they stepped into the private rooftop garden. It was breathtaking rows of roses, tiny fountains, and a small bench shaded by a cherry tree in bloom. Lily ran across the lawn, her laughter echoing off the glass walls. Maya sat on the bench, watching her. The air smelled of lilac and morning dew. She pulled out her sketchbook and began to draw the garden, her pencil gliding across the page. Lily peeked over her shoulder. "That is me," the girl exclaimed. "You drew me." Maya laughed softly. "You make a good model." Lily grinned. "Daddy never draws. He says he cannot." "Maybe he just forgot how," Maya said. "Grown-ups forget a lot of things they used to love." For the next few days, Their routine fell into a quiet rhythm. Breakfast with Lily, reading lessons, a walk in the garden, lunch, nap time, and stories before bed. The house that had once felt like a silent museum began to hum with small sounds, children's laughter, the rustle of coloring paper, the clatter of dishes. One evening, Ethan returned earlier than usual. He paused by the doorway, briefcase still in hand, watching as Maya and Lily built a tower of blocks on the living room rug. Lily was giggling so hard she could barely balance the last block. Ethan spoke gently. "Lily, it is almost bedtime." The little girl pouted. "Just 5 more minutes, Daddy, please?" Maya started to stand, but Ethan gestured for her to stay. He crouched beside his daughter and helped her place the final block. When the tower finally toppled over, Lily's laughter filled the room again. Something changed in Ethan's face, tension melting, a small smile tugging at his lips. He looked at Maya and said quietly, "You have a gift." She blinked. "A gift?" "For making people forget their loneliness," he said, then turned toward his study before she could reply. Later that night, Maya tucked Lily into bed. The little girl was half asleep when she murmured, "Daddy used to smile like that before Mommy went away." Maya brushed the child's hair back gently. "He is learning again, sweetheart. Smiles come back when hearts heal." When she stepped into the hallway, the apartment was dim and still. She noticed the light under Ethan's study door and hesitated before softly knocking. "Come in," his voice said. The room was lined with books and framed photographs. One picture sat face down on the desk, half hidden beneath a folder. Maya caught a glimpse, a woman with auburn hair, her arm around a younger Ethan. He noticed her glance but said nothing. "How is Lily?" "Already dreaming," Maya said softly. "She drew a picture of the garden today. She said she wants to show you." He nodded, eyes distant. "Thank you for helping her find a little light again." "She helps me too," Maya replied. For a heartbeat, silence filled the room. Then Ethan cleared his throat and said, "Good night, Miss Thompson." "Good night, Mr. Blake." She stepped out, closing the door gently behind her. As she walked down the hallway, she thought about the way he had looked at the photograph, the way his voice had softened. There was more pain behind his quiet composure than he allowed anyone to see. Maya returned to her small guest room, her mind full of questions she did not dare ask. Who was the woman in that picture? Why had she left? And why did the sadness in Ethan's eyes feel like something Maya wanted, somehow, to understand and ease? Outside the window, the city glowed. Inside, a single light burned in the study down the hall, long after everyone else had gone to sleep. Days turned into weeks, and the Blake apartment began to feel less like a museum and more like a home. Every morning, Lily's laughter echoed through the halls, chasing away the stillness that once ruled the place. Maya's days were full reading lessons, walks in the park, simple meals cooked with care, but her heart was fuller still. Ethan noticed the change too. The meetings that once consumed him no longer ran late into the night. He began to come home earlier, sometimes joining them for dinner. The first time he did, Lily looked shocked, as if she had just seen a miracle. "Daddy, you are home before the moon," she said with delight. He smiled faintly. "I thought it was time to see what my daughter eats every night." Maya served a bowl of tomato soup and warm bread. Ethan sat at the table, clearly unused to the domestic calm. But when Lily began telling him stories about her day, he actually listened, his posture softening with each laugh. Maya watched quietly, her chest tightening with something she could not name. Later that week, a storm rolled over the city. Thunder shook the windows while rain streamed down the glass. The lights flickered once, then steadied. Lily, frightened by the noise, ran to Maya's room, clutching her stuffed bear. "Can I stay here?" she whispered. "Of course," Maya said, lifting the blanket for her. "Storms sound scary, but they pass." As lightning flashed, Lily's small hand reached for hers. "When Mommy was here, she sang to me during storms." Maya hesitated, then began to hum softly. The melody was simple, something her own mother had once sung. Soon, the girl's breathing slowed, and sleep found her. Outside the door, Ethan had stopped, unseen. He had gone to check on his daughter, but the sound of Maya's voice froze him. He stood there, hand on the doorknob, eyes closed. It had been years since he had heard music in this house. When Maya stepped out later, she found him in the hallway. "I am sorry," she said quickly. She was frightened. Ethan shook his head. Do not apologize. She needs comfort. He paused. I think I do too. Their eyes met, and for the first time, his guarded expression broke. He looked tired, not the kind of tired sleep could fix, but the kind that came from years of pretending he was fine. She misses her mother, he said quietly. I tried to protect her from everything, but maybe I was only teaching her to hide from the world. Maya's voice was gentle. Maybe she just needed someone to remind her it is safe to feel again. Ethan nodded, then said almost to himself, maybe we both did. The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was the kind that said two people finally understood each other, even without saying much at all. That night, when Maya returned to her room, she stood by the window and watched the rain ease into a drizzle. Somewhere behind her, in the quiet of the hall, a man who had forgotten how to hope was learning again because of kindness, because of her. The next morning arrived clear and bright, as if the storm had washed the city clean. Maya opened the curtains in Lily's room and smiled at the soft light spilling across the floor. The little girl was still asleep, hugging her bear, peaceful for the first time in many nights. Down the hall, Ethan sat at the dining table, coffee untouched. The faint circles under his eyes told Maya he had barely slept. When she entered, he spoke quietly, as though afraid to break the calm. Lily told me you sang to her during the storm, he said. She said it was the first time she was not afraid. Maya smiled. It was just a lullaby my mother used to sing. Sometimes that is all it takes, a voice in the dark. Ethan looked at her, something uncertain, flickering in his expression. You remind me of someone who refuses to give up, no matter how heavy life gets. She laughed softly. I guess I have had enough reasons to learn that. Oh. He hesitated, then said, would you join me at the charity gala next week? It is formal, but Lily wants to go, and she insists you should come too. Maya blinked, surprised. Me? I am just the nanny. Not to her, Ethan said simply. And not anymore, I think. The words hung in the air. Maya nodded slowly. All right. If you are sure. That afternoon, while Lily napped, Maya found herself wandering into the study to tidy up. The framed photograph she had seen weeks ago still lay face down. She hesitated, then carefully turned it upright. It showed Ethan, years younger, standing beside a woman with kind eyes and auburn hair. They were smiling, unaware of how fragile happiness could be. A folded newspaper clipping slipped from beneath the frame. The headline read, Blake Media Scandal, Personal Life Exposed. Maya's eyes widened as she skimmed the lines. Rumors, accusations, the collapse of a marriage under public scrutiny. None of it sounded true, but she understood why Ethan guarded his privacy like armor. She placed the photo back exactly as it was and stepped away, her heart heavy. The world had not just taken his wife, it had taken his peace. That evening, she served dinner quietly. Lily chattered about her day, and Ethan listened with a smile that did not quite reach his eyes. When Maya started clearing the dishes, he spoke suddenly. You saw the picture, did you not? She froze, unsure what to say. I was just cleaning. It is all right, he said, voice calm but weary. You should know the truth. The media destroyed what little was left of my marriage. Lies travel faster than truth when people crave scandal. He sighed. After she left, I stopped trusting the world. I stopped trusting myself. Maya met his gaze. But you still believe in Lily. That means there is something in you that never gave up. Huh? Ethan looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Maybe that is why you are here. To remind me what it means to try again. The city lights glimmered beyond the window, and for the first time, the space between them no longer felt like a wall, it felt like the start of understanding. The week of the charity gala arrived faster than Maya expected. The apartment buzzed with quiet preparation. Florists delivered white roses. Assistants came and went, and Ethan spent hours in his office managing last-minute details. For Lily, the event was an adventure. For Maya, it was something else entirely, a chance to see the man behind the headlines in his world of power and reputation. The night of the gala shimmered with luxury. The ballroom of the Grand Meridian Hotel glowed under crystal chandeliers, guests dressed in elegance, cameras flashing like lightning. Maya stood near the edge of the crowd, wearing a simple navy dress that Mrs. Collins had helped her press. She felt both invisible and exposed at once. Ethan moved through the room with quiet authority, shaking hands, exchanging polite smiles. Lily clung to his hand until she spotted Maya and ran to her. "You look like a princess," she whispered. Maya knelt down and smiled. "And you look like sunshine." For a while, things felt perfect. Music filled the air, laughter sparkled like champagne bubbles, and for the first time since she had met him, Ethan looked almost at peace. But perfection never lasted long in a world built on appearances. It began with whispers soft at first, then louder. A reporter from a gossip column had spotted Maya and was already snapping photos. "Is that the nanny?" someone murmured. "He brought the nanny to a charity gala?" By the time Ethan noticed, the damage was done. Flashbulbs burst across the room. Questions flew like arrows. "Mr. Blake, care to comment on your relationship with your employee?" Lily shrank behind Maya's skirt, frightened by the noise. Ethan's expression hardened. He stepped forward to shield them both, his voice low but firm. "Enough. This is not your story to tell." But the reporters persisted, and within minutes, the story had spread online. Maya could see the headlines forming in their eyes. Millionaire CEO and the nanny. An unlikely affair. She could not breathe. Everything she had worked for, every ounce of trust she had earned it, was crumbling in front of strangers. Ethan turned to her, regret shadowing his face. "I am sorry. I should have known this would happen." Maya shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "You do not need to protect me, Mr. Blake, but please, protect her." She looked down at Lily, who was now clutching the lavender scarf, eyes wide with confusion. Security guided them out through a side exit, away from the flashing lights. In the quiet hallway, Maya took a shaky breath. Ethan stood beside her, phone buzzing endlessly with messages. "This will pass," he said, though even he did not sound convinced. Maya looked at him, her heart breaking. "Maybe for you. But for me, this is the end of my job. No one will believe I was just doing what was right." He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. "I cannot be part of a life built on rumors," she said softly. "You and Lily deserve peace, but so do I." Without another word, Maya walked toward the elevator, tears burning her eyes. Behind her, Ethan stood frozen, surrounded by silence that felt heavier than any storm. Outside, the night rain began to fall again, just like the day they first met. The following morning, the city awoke to chaos. Every news outlet had splashed Ethan Blake's name across its headlines. The words, "CEO and Nanny Scandal," glared from digital screens in coffee shops and subway stations. Photos from the gala filled the internet, Ethan shielding Maya and Lily, the lavender scarf bright against the flash of cameras. In the penthouse, the silence was heavy. Ethan stood before the window, phone in hand, scrolling through article after article. Each one twisted the story further. Romance, affair, betrayal. None of it true. Yet, he knew that in his world, truth always came second to spectacle. Mrs. Collins entered quietly. "Sir," Miss Thompson left her room key, and her uniform folded neatly on the bed. "She said to tell you thank you for everything." Ethan's chest tightened. "Where did she go?" "She did not say," the housekeeper replied softly. He turned away, jaw clenched. Outside, the skyline blurred behind the glass. Lily padded into the room, still in her pajamas, holding the scarf. "Daddy," she said, voice trembling. "Is Maya coming back?" Ethan knelt to her level. "I hope so, sweetheart." But he knew hope alone was not enough. He opened his laptop and began typing furiously, pulling up security reports, communication logs, and employee files. Within an hour, the truth surfaced: an anonymous leak traced directly to one of his former executives, Lucas Reed, who had long wanted to undermine him. Lucas had attended the gala and had been the first to contact the reporters. Ethan's anger burned cold. "So this is how you wanted to win," he muttered under his breath. By noon, he had arranged a press conference. Cameras clicked as he stepped onto the stage, his voice steady, his gaze clear. "What was published yesterday was not only false, it was cruel," he said. "The woman in those photos is a caretaker, a teacher, and the reason my daughter learned to laugh again. She deserves respect, not ridicule. I take full responsibility for allowing this invasion of her life, but let me be clear, there was no scandal, only kindness." The room fell silent. Reporters exchanged uncertain glances. For once, the truth cut through the noise. Afterward, he drove straight to the small neighborhood. Maya had once mentioned, the one with the corner cafe and the cracked sidewalks. He parked, scanned the street, and finally saw her sitting by the window of a modest diner, stirring a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. When she looked up and saw him, her eyes widened. "Ethan," she said quietly, surprise and caution mingling in her tone. "I needed to tell you in person," he said. "The truth is out now. The man who leaked the story has been arrested. I told the world who you really are, the person who saved my daughter and reminded me how to be a father again." Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "You did not have to do that." "Yes, I did," he replied, "because you deserve peace, not shame, and because I could not stand knowing I hurt you." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lily appeared from behind his leg, clutching the scarf. She ran to Maya and hugged her tightly. "Daddy said we can go to the park again," Lily said with a smile. Maya's heart melted. She looked at Ethan, and for the first time, she saw no mask of power, only sincerity. Outside, the clouds began to break, sunlight spilling onto the wet pavement. It felt like the world itself was offering them a second chance. The sun warmed Central Park that afternoon, turning every puddle from the morning rain into a patch of light. Children's laughter drifted across the air, and birds hopped near the benches, pecking at crumbs. On that familiar path by the fountain, Maya walked hand in hand with Lily, while Ethan followed a few steps behind, watching them with quiet peace. It had been 2 weeks since the storm of gossip had faded. The press had moved on, and the truth had prevailed. Lucas Reed's arrest had made headlines for a single day before disappearing beneath newer scandals. But the Blake family, if that was what they were becoming, had chosen silence over spectacle. They simply went on living. Lily pointed at the carousel across the lawn. "Can we ride it, Daddy? Please?" Ethan smiled. "If Miss Maya says yes." Maya laughed. "I think that can be arranged." The little girl squealed and ran ahead, her lavender scarf fluttering behind her. Ethan and Maya walked side by side, the space between them soft and easy now. "She is happy again," Maya said. "She is," Ethan replied. "Because of you." Maya shook her head. "Because she was brave enough to let people love her again." He looked at her, his expression gentle. "You taught her that. And you taught me too." They reached the carousel, its music bright and nostalgic. As Lily climbed onto a painted horse, Maya felt a tug on her heart. So many turns, so many storms, and yet here they were, right where everything had begun. When the ride ended, Ethan handed Lily a small paper bag of cotton candy and motioned for Maya to sit with him on the bench. He held something wrapped in cloth. "I wanted to give this back to you," he said. She unfolded the fabric, and there it was, her lavender scarf, freshly cleaned, now framed beneath clear glass. Beneath it, a small brass plate read, "The day kindness found us." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "You kept it?" "I could never throw away the thing that changed everything," he said softly. "That scarf reminded me of who I wanted to be. A man my daughter could be proud of." She looked at him, searching his face for the distance that used to be there, but it was gone. All that remained was warmth. Ethan took a deep breath. "Maya, I do not know what the future holds, but I know I want you in it, not as an employee, but as someone who belongs." Her heart skipped. "Are you sure?" He smiled. "Completely." Lily ran back to them and climbed into Maya's lap. "Daddy, are we a family now?" she asked with innocent certainty. Ethan nodded. "Yes, sweetheart, we finally are." Maya hugged the child tightly, her tears falling into Lily's hair. For the first time in years, she felt the ache of loneliness fade, replaced by something steady and real. As the sun dipped behind the trees, the three of them sat together, father, daughter, and the woman who had brought light back into their lives. Somewhere nearby, a street musician played a slow, tender tune. The melody floated through the park like a promise that kindness could heal what pride had broken, that love could grow even in the unlikeliest of places, and that sometimes the greatest rescues were the ones that saved the heart.